All right, let's set the scene here. You were just injured in an accident. Maybe it's a car accident where you're the driver, passenger, or even a pedestrian. Maybe it's a slip and fall, dog bite, you name it. Lots of ways to get injured, and it's not your fault. Eventually, you're going to have a question. And that question is, how much should I be getting compensated for this accident? And it's a fair question. It's a good question. You do deserve to be compensated.
We get it every time.
Exactly. If this injury is not your fault. Well, let's dive into that and let's figure out what the factors are that determine the amount that you get paid. So we've got Dmitry, our lead personal injury attorney here, and today we're talking about what your case is worth. How much can you get paid from this case? It is the number one question that our clients ask, especially, of course, after they've started to recover, they start feeling better. This is the question that they ask. So we're going to go through what those factors are now.
Absolutely. There's a few questions that insurance companies like to consider when valuing your case. The number one factor they look at, medical bills.
Yep.
Not just your past medical bills, but also your future. So if there's any treatment that you're going to need, important to get those procedural estimates going. Also, they look at property damage. Now, I'm not talking about the value that they paid to repair your car.
Right, like they spent 10 grand to repair your car. You're not talking about that.
No, the pictures. What does the picture look like? Does it look like you were hit by a truck? If you were, they'll give you some
Your
money
cases,
for it.
yeah, exactly.
Yes, absolutely. Lost wages. They're going to look at your lost wages. If you were hurt and your doctor ordered you off work, you didn't get income, they're going to give you money for that.
But even if I used a PTO day and I still got paid?
Absolutely. Not just the wages that you lost, but if you had to take time off of work that you could have used later for being sick, you'll get reimbursed for that.
Okay.
Absolutely. Something similar, but a little bit different, is loss of earning capacity. That's something that they reimburse. And on top of that, pain and suffering.
All right, fair enough. Well, now let's sort of double click on each one of those. The very first one you mentioned was medical bills. Let's dive into that. What are they taking into account?
Absolutely. Every time you get a medical bill for some service, they're going to take that into account. If you took an ambulance ride to the emergency room, they'll pay you for the ambulance bill. If you went to the emergency room, they'll pay for the emergency room.
Yep.
At the ER, if there was a doctor that saw you, pay his bill. A radiologist who looked at some x-ray scans, some CT scans, they'll pay for that. If there was some drugs that were administered, they'll pay for those bills. On top of that, if you go to your primary care physician after you're discharged, they'll pay for that. They send you for some therapy, they'll pay for your therapy.
Right.
If you need invasive treatment, injections, surgeries, they're going to pay for all that too.
So let me use a really simple example. I had this $1,000 doctor visit, right? But I only had to pay a $50 copay. You're trying, so I paid $50. Insurance presumably paid like $950 or whatever, right? The balance, I don't care. Someone else paid for that.
Yep.
You're going to try to get me the whole $1,000 back?
Exactly. We're going to submit that entire bill, get that reimbursed, and whatever we have to pay back to the insurance, we'll try to knock down to put more money in your pocket on the back end.
So ideally, yeah, I'm not just getting reimbursed. I'm actually making money in a sense, putting it in my pocket from that one visit.
Absolutely. Tax-free.
Got it. Okay, gotcha. That really helps, and I guess that explains why it's so freaking important to go to your doctor's appointments.
You have to go to all the appointments, and if there's ever a time where they're going to recommend you treatment that you don't plan on receiving, get a procedural estimate.
All right, what do you mean by that? So, all right, my neck hurt in this accident. I'm starting to feel better. The doctor recommended an injection or a surgery.
Exactly. And you're not sure that you want to go and get that invasive procedure.
Yeah. At least not now.
At least not now. Don't tell the doctor you're not going to get it. What you say is, let me think about it. I'm concerned about the cost.
Yeah.
Tell me how much it'll cost. We'll then take that procedural estimate, submit it, and ask that insurance company to pay you for it.
And when we represent someone, we're helping them through that process?
100%, every step of the way.
Got it. Okay. So then you turn around and say, hey, he was recommended to have this surgery for these reasons. He's not getting it now. He's not getting it yet. But we want to factor that in to the ultimate payout, because if he chooses next month or next year or in 5 years to go get this surgery, it is a result of this accident. We want to sort of include that as part of the compensation.
That's exactly right. If the doctor sees something on advanced imaging, like an MRI, and they say that you're a surgical candidate, you may not want that surgery today or tomorrow, but you may need it next month, next year, or 5 or 10 years from now. And we're going to try to make sure you get paid for the time when you decide to have that.
Got it. That makes sense. So that makes a ton of sense. And now I understand how these medical bills impact someone's payout. But like, I can't just go to the doctor forever for this, right? I can be like, okay, I feel fine now, but I'll go back to see him in 6 months, and maybe we can include that bill too. Walk me through that timeline.
That's what you would think. That's what a lot of people think. Unfortunately, the answer to that is no.
No.
Because what you've done essentially is created a gap in your treatment.
Okay.
And all these insurance companies, they look for things like gaps in treatment to try to lower the value of your claim. Because they're going to say, if you were really hurt, Derek, you would have not had that gap. You would have continued to get your treatment. So we're not going to consider that visit that you had 6 months down the line.
Yes, right. So you're always trying to think of this from we are trying to maximize the compensation for our client. That's what this video is all about.
Absolutely.
But on the other side, there's the insurance company who's trying to minimize it, or in some cases even eliminate any compensation. And so one of the main things they point to is that gap in treatment.
That's exactly right.
And it's so easy for an insurance company to say, like, you didn't go to your physical therapy for a month,
Right.
yet you're claiming you're in all this pain. That's not consistent. Like, somebody who's really in all this pain and deserving of the big payout doesn't miss their appointments. They go 3 days a week and for the entire term that their doctor recommended.
That's exactly right. And it's a reasonable argument.
There's
this tug of war between us and the insurance companies.
Yep.
We're trying to increase the value of your claim, and they're trying to pull downwards and try to decrease the value of your claim. With a firm like ours, we have a lot of experience knowing what the insurance companies like to pull, and that's why we can help you maximize the value of your claim.
Right, exactly. And I mean, if you are skipping appointments or having this big gap in treatment, you're just making the insurance company's job easier. Like, they are going to be able to pull down that claim.
That's exactly right.
I mean, if the fact is you didn't go to the doctor for a month when you were told to, well, then yeah, you've created your own problem.
That's exactly right.
Okay,
And
yeah.
we're here to help you avoid that from happening.
Exactly. So now let's dive into property damage. You mentioned that the actual dollar amount, it doesn't really figure into your compensation. Explain that to me.
Yeah, exactly. When I'm talking about property damage, I'm not talking about the cost of your estimate to fix your car or how much they actually paid to fix your car. While important, it's not the number one driving factor in the bodily injury claim.
In the injury claim.
Exact-
Like that's still a part of the claim in insurance, right? And that car hopefully is getting fixed and fully repaired or replaced.
100%. And we will help set that up for you. We're not going to take any money from your property damage.
Right.
If you need our assistance, we'll help guide you through that process. But that's just something we'll do for you because you're our client.
Right. And that's pretty well established, right? Like, the car there's a million adjusters and body shops and mechanics that this happens all the time. So they
All the
do
time.
their estimates, they say, okay, and the insurance company decides I'm either going to pay to repair it or replace it.
Exactly.
And that's why they don't need us typically.
They don't need us. If the car repair costs more than the car is worth, they're going to total it out.
Yeah, exactly right. And,
That's right.
And typically, I mean, there's always issues, but typically, like, that's a process that kind of runs itself.
It runs itself. And honestly, if we were involved, it would take it longer
Yeah.
because then we'd be the middleman. So we'll open up the claim. We'll get you in touch with the property damage adjuster. We'll tell you the number to call, and then we'll hand it off for you, and that'll speed things up right along.
Yep. And that's why we don't obviously take a percentage of that or anything. But the personal injury is different. So tell me how those overlap. The personal injury case that we are helping our client with, but how does the property damage relate to that?
Exactly. So when you look at the property damage photographs, because the adjusters are going to look at those photographs.
Right.
They're not going to care how much they spent because that comes from a different pot,
Right.
the property damage part. But they're going to look at the photograph and they're going to say, does this look like somebody was hurt?
Right.
And if it does, if your car looks like a harmonica, if it looks like you got hit by a truck, they will put extra value on your claim.
I think you mean accordion.
I do mean accordion.
Put on a harmonica car. All right.
Yeah, I guess you don't want it in a harmonica.
Yeah,
Accordion.
I got it. So yes, obviously, if the car is smashed and flipped around and clearly, whatever, got it. We all know what that looks like a totally destroyed car, airbags deployed. What about something short of that? How does that affect the case?
Absolutely. If you're ever taking a picture of your property damage and then you're going to show it to somebody and that person says to you, what am I looking at? That's not going to add value to your claim.
Right. It's not going to add value.
It's not going to add value to your claim. And we're probably better not to have the insurance adjuster see that photograph.
Yes.
But if there's a dent, if your bumper is falling off, it's not smashed in, but it's falling off,
Mhm.
or your trunk won't close, that'll add some value.
Yeah. Yep. Makes perfect sense. It's sort of the eyeball test. And,
Exactly.
these insurance companies look at looked at a lot of this. I mean,
You know it when you see it.
yeah, exactly. But I also want to like push back on the devil's advocate just a little bit. Like these cars are getting better. They have like impact zones, and like I actually had somebody rear end the back of my car, and I mean, it wasn't terrible. Certainly wasn't injured, but like I got out, I'm like, oh, this thing's gonna be scratched and dented. It was totally fine.
I hear what you're saying. I'll tell you from what I understand it used to be different. When these bumpers were made of steel, they
Yeah.
wouldn't show any damage.
Okay.
And then they would reverberate the shock throughout the vehicle, and you would actually get more hurt.
Right. There's no steel bumpers anymore.
There's no steel bumpers anymore. Everything is meant to crash.
Okay.
And the reason it does it is it absorbs some of that impact, in theory, passing less of that force onto
Okay.
you. That being said, a picture is worth 1,000 words or a million
Yeah.
words. And if it looks like you got hit by a truck,
Yeah.
they're going to value your claim like you got hit by a truck.
All right. Yeah. Maybe I had that backwards. That makes sense. That was helpful. Thank you. All right. The next thing you mentioned was lost wages. Seems pretty self-explanatory to me. I get paid, X amount of days, X amount per day, and I miss, a certain number of days of work. Like, just pay me that, right? Is it really that simple?
It's pretty simple. Not as simple as you're making it out to be, but it
Sure.
is simple. The most important thing is you get a doctor's note off work. If you decide not to go to work by yourself, no one's going to pay you for it.
Okay. Good
Yep.
distinction.
So you need to have a doctor's note that tells you you can't go to work. If you have that,
Like the
that's step
same
one.
ones I used to get to get out of school.
Same ones.
Yeah. Okay. Got it.
Exactly. And a lot of times you'll see, it'll say excused from school or work.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll just be excused from work. After that, if you're a W-2 employee
Mhm.
and you actually miss work, you just go to your HR department, ask them to fill out a form, they'll fill that out, and you're good to go.
Okay.
But like you talked about earlier, if they say, hey, not so fast, I want you to use this PTO, you use your paid time off, and then you can get reimbursed the value of that paid time off that you would have used to take your trip to Hawaii or Mexico
Yeah.
or to see the Grand Canyon,
Yep.
but you had to use it while you were recovering from your injuries.
Got it. Okay. That makes sense to me. And so what if like you're not a W-2 employee, or you miss
Right.
like you're a salesperson, you miss out on commissions? How do you get into all that?
Absolutely. It's a little trickier, but you can still do it. A lot of times what you do in those instances, tax returns.
Okay.
You're going to look at the prior year's tax returns, average it out. If you missed a month from work, we'll divide it by 12 and ask them to reimburse you for 1/12 of last year.
Got it. Okay. And is this something that's typically like hotly contested with the insurance companies? Like, paint that picture for me.
Absolutely. Great question. Honestly, this is more of an issue than the medical bills.
Hmm.
The medical bills are pretty black and white. You go to the emergency room, they charge you $10,000, they'll reimburse that.
Mm-hmm.
These medical bills, they fight. That said, if you have the doctor's note and you are on a W-2, you have the best chance of getting that reimbursed to you.
Okay.
If you have a doctor's note and you're on a 1099, we'll still try. We may not be able to get 100% reimbursed for you, but we'll do our darnest.
Okay, lost wages makes sense to me now. Obviously, there's a few catches and a few tricks, but you'll handle that for the client.
Absolutely.
Tell me about this loss of earning capacity. I don't understand what that is and how it's different.
Sure. We touched on this earlier, and it is a little bit different, even though it sounds the same. What this is, you're still able to earn a wage. So maybe there was some time when you couldn't go to work while
Right.
you were recovering from your injuries.
Okay.
And then after you were better, you're able to go back to work, but you couldn't go back to the same job you were doing. And the new job you had to take paid you less money.
Yep.
So now we can ask for that lost earning capacity, meaning the difference between what you were making or were expected to make
Yep.
and what you're actually making if it's a lower value.
Got it. So, I mean, there's a million scenarios, but I am a construction worker and I'm out carrying heavy stuff all day long. My back's okay, like I can come back to work, but I just can't do that heavy lifting.
Exactly.
So now they got me working on the desk. I make, only 75% of what I used to.
That's
like
exactly right.
Something like that.
That's
right?
exactly what this is.
Okay. You mean you hear this with police and firefighters who get hurt a lot on the job, a million different things. Even a doctor or nurse who's on their feet all day, right? Like they got to get relocated somewhere else. Doing a different role.
Absolutely. It's not just physical labor. If you have a traumatic brain injury, you hit your head.
Oh, yeah?
Now, this happens a lot in T-bone collisions where you hit your head on the window.
Yep.
You have a traumatic brain injury, and maybe you have a desk job. But because of that, you can't fulfill those duties anymore.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to take some sort of manual labor job that pays you less than you were making before.
Ah.
you can get loss of earning capacity. I don't want you to think that this is just limited to physical injuries.
Okay, got it. So, but what if like, I mean, in the traumatic brain injury or whatever, what if I'm out for a while? Like I'm out for a month, 2 months, and my job fires me because I just haven't been coming to work.
Absolutely. Great question. If this actually happens to you and we can prove that they fired you because of your injury
Yep.
and you're making reasonable attempts to find a job and you can't find the job
Yep.
despite all your efforts, you're applying to 120 job postings a day.
Right.
You're on LinkedIn like it is your full-time job.
Yep.
We will include lost wages and try to get those reimbursed to you as
Got it.
well.
Or, I did now get the second job, the new job, but it just maybe doesn't pay as well or whatever.
And that's the loss of earning capacity. Absolutely.
Okay. Makes sense. Do you ever factor in like future earnings? Let's use a doctor, right? Obviously, typically doctors are high income individuals. I am a student. I am 6 months away from becoming a doctor, and I have this terrible injury, and I no longer will fulfill my career path of being a doctor. That's got to be a massive loss of earning capacity.
100%. In that case, we will get expert witnesses. They're going to do all the math for us. They're going to figure out what your job would have paid you at year 1, at year 5, at year 10, for as long as you're expected to work. And we will definitely include that and make that claim for you.
Wow. Okay. Got it. I mean, makes sense. You're darn right. Someone in that scenario deserves to be compensated.
100%.
Okay. Got it.
100%.
All right. And the last and maybe perhaps the biggest one to talk about is pain and suffering. Every client, everybody references pain and suffering when they're talking about a personal injury case. Just explain what that is to start, and then let's get deeper into it.
Absolutely. And I'll even take it up a notch. It's pain and suffering and loss of a normal life.
Okay.
A little distinct. Pain and suffering is the physical pain you are experiencing. Like if I punch you and that hurts you a little
That's
bit.
assault, brother.
Well, maybe battery.
Yeah, battery, whatever.
No, whatever it is. If that caused you any pain,
Right.
that would be an item of damage you can claim. Like, ow, the physical pain I'm experiencing.
Got it.
I'm suffering because of the pain.
Okay.
You go to the doctor, they ask you, how would you rate your pain on a scale of 1 to 10?
1 to 10.
Exactly. That's pain and suffering. Loss of a normal life is a little different. Because you're in pain, things you can't do anymore. So I punched you in your arm. You're left-handed. You do everything with your left arm.
You're making this case for me. I love it.
Exactly. Exactly. Now you can't make dinner for your family.
Okay.
All right. That's loss of a normal life.
Ah, okay.
Or you write with your left hand for a living. I punched you. You can no longer write.
Yep.
Your life was affected
Mhm.
because of the pain you were experiencing. That's loss of a normal life.
Got
So
it.
those are the big two items that people typically fight over. How much is your pain and suffering worth? And how much is your loss of a normal life worth?
Yep. Would this count? I've had a client that was in a wheelchair prior to the accident, right? And this always sticks out to me as something, as a quote. She said she had this back pain after the accident. Always been in a wheelchair, now has back pain and can't sit in her wheelchair anymore for a long period of time. And, there's no end in sight for that. That's a terrible spot to be.
I wouldn't want it.
No. And so is that pain and suffering? Does that get calculated in?
100%.
Got it.
And on top of that, I'll tell you about that example you just provided. People think, oh my gosh, I have this pre-existing condition. I can't make any money in my personal injury case. That couldn't be farther from the truth.
Right.
There's something called aggravation of a pre-existing condition. And if you had a pre-existing condition that was aggravated, you're entitled to recovery. Absolutely.
Yep, that's the eggshell plaintiff from law school. I remember that
Exactly.
one.
I remember it too.
All right, so let's go through this pain and suffering just a little bit more because you actually added on to the pain and suffering term. Break
Yes.
it down. All right.
Oh, sorry. The loss of a normal life.
Okay.
So again, that's the pleasurable aspects of life that you were accustomed to enjoying,
Yep.
that you were prevented from enjoying because of the pain you were experiencing as a result of the injuries that you sustained in the accident.
Got it. So they go hand in hand.
They go hand in hand. And it can be anything. It really can. It can be going out to the movies with your spouse.
Right.
It can be going dancing with your spouse. It can be hanging out with your buddies and drinking beer and playing
Yep.
billiards.
Yep.
It can be your Sunday bowling league. Anything, really.
And so this, to me, is where a lawyer really comes in and starts to earn their fee, right? Because
Absolutely.
a lawyer being able to tell that story to the insurance company or to a jury,
Yes.
it really can make or break. I mean, because pain and suffering. All right, the medical bill has a dollar amount.
Yes.
Pain and suffering does not.
Does not.
Right? What is me not being able to go drink beers and play billiards worth? There is no set dollar amount. So that's where the lawyer really earns their money.
100%. Everything else up until this point was black and white.
Right.
Your medical bills are literally black and white, black ink on white paper.
Right.
Your lost wages, same thing. Someone's going to fill out a report or they're going to look at your tax returns, literally black and white. Pain and suffering, loss of a normal life is not black and white. And that's where lawyers, like you just said, earn their keep.
And typically, you see cases on the news where the pain and suffering is a massive amount of money, right?
Yep.
Do the insurance companies sort of break that dollar amount up?
They do. And insurance companies typically have software that they use. They're going to take all your medical records and input that into the software. Their software is going to look at the diagnostic codes that you received from your doctors.
Okay.
And based on those diagnostic codes and the length of treatment you underwent to become cured, hopefully, they're going to put a pain and suffering value on there.
Got it. But that is, do you ever just take that at their word? I'm sorry.
Never. So they always have a range, and they must have to start at the bottom of their range. Of course. And then you have a personal injury attorney who's experienced, hopefully, representing you, who's going to get you to the top of that range.
Got it. Makes perfect sense. Thanks for explaining that.
Absolutely.
All right, so Dmitry, we've gone through all those things. We've got our dollar amount in our head. I'm sure the insurance company has theirs, and maybe you reach some sort of an agreement on that dollar amount. But what if there's this issue of like who's at fault, or maybe it was partially my fault too? How does that all work?
Absolutely. Great question. State specific, but if you're watching this here in Illinois, I'll answer that for you as if you're talking to an Illinois attorney, which I happen to be. In Illinois, we have comparative negligence, which means as long as you were not more at fault for the accident than the person you're trying to recover damages from, you can still recover. You will have your recovery reduced by the amount of fault that's attributed to you. So for instance, let's say you're 25% at fault for your accident and you should have received $1 million.
Yep.
I'm not a mathematician, but if my math is correct, instead of $1 million, you'll get $750,000.
Got it. Yep, that makes perfect sense. But then my question is, who's the one that's actually determining that I'm 25% at fault?
Great question. Your lawyer is going to argue with the insurance adjuster and try to agree on a value of what percentage of fault is attributable to you as opposed to the other driver.
Got it. So you're trying to land on a dollar amount, which is what we've been talking about in this video. But then if this is the case, if the other party's not 100% at fault, then you're trying to argue, you're trying to land on a percentage as well.
Exactly.
And if you don't land on either of those, just briefly, like if you never land on either of those, then what do you do?
If you can't agree on the percentage, but you still agree on the dollar amount, you can still reach a settlement.
Okay.
That said, if you can't agree on a percentage and you can't agree on the dollar amount, litigation will be your recourse.
Yeah, you're going to trial.
Absolutely.
So if you've gone through all this, you know the 5 different things that are used to figure out a dollar amount, plus this whole comparative negligence thing.
Yep.
Now you get why we can't actually give you a dollar amount, right? All those things need to be worked through and figured out in order to know your dollar amount.
Exactly. Eventually, we'll come to a point where we can advise you on what to do with the settlement offer. But in the beginning stages, it's almost impossible.
Right. It's almost impossible, right? But there's still a lot of value, in my opinion, in knowing what these things are. Because if you know what those elements, if you know what goes into the cake that you ultimately want to get baked, right?
Yes.
Then you can manage those things the right way. The perfect example is the gap in treatment.
Exactly. And there's other things that an experienced personal injury lawyer can help you watch out for.
Yep.
Make sure you don't step into a pit.
Yep.
Right. And then you can't dig yourself out of it.
Fair enough. All right. There you go. And that is how ultimately the dollar amount, the compensation for your personal injury case gets figured out.